You were never overlooked. You were hidden. Not because you were forgotten, but because heaven was waiting for this exact moment to unseal the secret written over your life. There's a sound in the spirit right now like thunder rolling behind a veil, a tremble in the heavens, a shift in the unseen, and your name is echoing through it. This isn't coincidence, it's prophecy in motion. God's been holding something back, not from you, but for you. You thought the silence meant disqualification, but what if it meant preservation? What if the delay was the disguise, and the rejection was the redirection? Because chosen ones are never revealed until the furnace has finished its work. Welcome to Echoes of the Chosen, where hidden ones remember who they are and rise. This message isn't just another video. It's a scroll being opened, and what you're about to hear may explain everything you've ever questioned. Isaiah 49:2 says, "He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid me and said, 'You are my servant. In you I will display my splendor.'" You weren't abandoned. You were armed in secret. Now God is breaking the silence, and what's been kept in the shadows is about to step into the light. Stay with me until the end, because by the time this message finishes, you won't just know the secret God's been carrying, you'll realize it's always been about you. This is your unsealing, your awakening. Your assignment begins now. Divine marking. The evidence you were chosen. Early, long before you knew what calling meant, your life carried a different weight. You didn't blend in. You didn't fit the mold. You weren't rebellious. You were marked. Marked by the hand of the one who whispered your name in eternity before you ever took a breath on earth. Jeremiah 1:5 didn't just apply to prophets. It applies to you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Your childhood felt haunted by questions too heavy for your age, dreams that lingered, silence that stung, a loneliness that didn't make sense. Others laughed. You listened. Others chased noise. You craved truth. This wasn't a flaw. It was formation. God was carving room in you for something the world couldn't give, and hell couldn't steal. The enemy saw your light early. That's why the warfare started before your awareness did. Strange losses, strange battles, strange patterns of delay. You weren't under attack because you were weak. You were attacked because you were seen. Even in obscurity, the spirit realm recognized your signature. You weren't just born, you were sent. And every mark the world called too much was proof you were meant for more. There's a silence that follows recognition. The sacred hush before the unveiling. Sacred obscurity. Why God hid you until now. The silence was not punishment, it was protection. You were kept behind the curtain while others took center stage. Not because you weren't ready, but because the world wasn't ready for what you carry. God hides what he values. Moses was hidden in a basket. David was left in the fields. Joseph was locked in a prison. Even Jesus, the Messiah, spent 30 years in quiet obedience before 3 years of public mission. Heaven always protects what hell wants to destroy too soon. You thought your prayers were unanswered, but the silence wasn't absence. It was divine surveillance. Every tear collected, every whisper remembered. You weren't being ignored. You were being watched, not by people, but by heaven. And when the time is right, hidden ones rise with a sound the earth can't ignore. Your obscurity was not your grave. It was your greenhouse. And now, the soil is splitting open. The fire and the forge. Trials that transformed you. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every closed door, none of it was wasted. God allowed the fire, not to burn you, but to brand you. Not to destroy you, but to distill you. Job cried out in the ashes, not knowing heaven was betting on his endurance. Joseph sat forgotten in a dungeon, not knowing Pharaoh's dream was the key to his throne. The fire didn't mean failure, it meant refinement. It meant that heaven was still working, even when nothing moved on earth. You wondered why the pain wouldn't stop, because some purposes are so weighty, they must be forged in the furnace of affliction. Comfort doesn't birth consecration. Only fire makes a vessel unbreakable. You weren't broken. You were branded. And what came out of the flames is no longer fragile. The forge is silent now, but the mark remains. Divine resistance. What happens when you delay? Destiny. There's a spiritual ache that settles in when you avoid your scroll. When you run from the assignment, even comfort turns to discomfort. Doors stop opening. Favor dries up. The spirit becomes restless, because it was never meant to stay still. Jonah found this truth in the belly of delay. He could run from Nineveh, but he couldn't outrun the call. God's mercy met him in rebellion, but not without consequence. Because when chosen ones delay, destinies are disrupted. Heaven is patient, but heaven is not passive. Your calling will wait, but it will not shrink. It will sit in the background like a flame until you can no longer pretend you don't feel the heat. Delayed obedience is still disobedience, and the weight you feel is not burden. It's the weight of an unopened scroll. If you've been resisting, God is still calling, but the winds are changing. Unveiling power. The authority you've carried all along. You've been walking with more authority than you realized, but heaven never gives full access to the unaware. Only when identity meets revelation does power fully activate. You were born with keys, not for status, but for dominion. Luke 10:19 wasn't written for elite Christians. It says, "I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you." This isn't poetic, it's prophetic. The reason the warfare intensified when you got closer to your purpose is because power draws opposition. Not to test your strength, but to reveal it. The dreams you've had, the discernment you carry, the prayers that shift atmospheres, you didn't earn that. You were trusted with that. You're not waiting for permission. You're awakening to position. And now, heaven is watching to see if you'll wield what you've been given. Heaven's scroll. What you were born to release. You are not a placeholder. You are a solution. There is a scroll over your life, sealed with divine ink, written in the archives of eternity. It carries your assignment, your mantle, your mission. Like Esther, you were positioned for a moment you didn't see coming. Like Jeremiah, you were appointed before you were aware. And like Jesus, your scroll includes a cross, but it ends in resurrection. Heaven is unsealing something right now. Not a career, not a platform, a calling. What God placed inside you wasn't random. It was encoded for such a time as this. Your scroll is opening. Your silence is breaking, and your release has already begun. There's a sound in the Spirit, and it bears your name. Remnant awakening, you're not alone in this calling. You felt alone, but isolation isn't truth, it's transition, and you're not the only one being awakened. Scattered across the earth are others. Hidden ones, marked ones, chosen ones. Just like you, the remnant is rising. You've been feeling the pull because your tribe is echoing in the Spirit. There's a convergence happening, an invisible gathering of voices, dreams, and assignments that were always meant to collide in this hour. Elijah thought he was the last prophet, but heaven reminded him, there are 7,000 more who have not bowed. You are part of the 7,000. You are part of the echo. And this echo is no longer whispering. Echo activation. The sound must leave you. This calling is not just about you. It's about what must move through you. Heaven didn't mark you just to bless you. Heaven marked you to send you. Your transformation was never meant to end in personal breakthrough. It was meant to trigger a chain reaction. Nations are waiting on your obedience. Bloodlines are waiting on your healing. Generations are waiting on your yes. When Jesus rose from the grave, he didn't just ascend, he sent. And the sound of Pentecost didn't come to make the disciples feel anointed. It came to release a fire that echoed to every tongue, tribe, and nation. What you carry is too holy to hoard. What you carry is too urgent to delay. Let the echo begin, and let it begin with you. The scroll is still unrolling. Your breath is the next line. The silence wasn't rejection, it was reverence. Heaven covers what it cherishes, and your life has been cloaked in secrecy, not because you were forgotten, but because you were forged. You are not emerging by accident. You are arriving on time. You have walked through the shadows of obscurity. You have endured fires meant to consume. You have stood in the quiet places where no applause could reach you. And now, you're standing at the threshold of divine unveiling. The heavens are not just opening above you, they're opening through you. Because what you carry is not just a gift, it's a commission. You were hidden. You were honed. Now you are being heralded. This is your sacred hour. The scroll is open, the mantle is resting, and the echo is beginning. If this word stirred your spirit, if something deep in you whispered, "This is me," comment 7x7 below. That number is not decoration. It is alignment, a signal, a seal. Drop it as a prophetic act. Then share what pierced you most. Which line felt like it was written inside your bones? Your testimony may be someone else's confirmation. And if you know this is your tribe, your sacred space, subscribe now and stay connected to Echoes of the Chosen. This isn't just a channel. It's a remnant, a rising, a resonance. The scrolls are opening and the called are remembering. You are not alone. You are the next echo.